Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are back again with another interesting Jay Slater video. I mean, this is more or less about Mark Williams Thomas. He was recently on the podcast, the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly podcast. Big those guys up. Make sure you guys subscribe to their channel. Link can be found in the description because we will be reacting to what Mark Williams Thomas said on that podcast. And I must say, I was slightly surprised by what was said by Mark Williams Thomas, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to get into it. I'm going to give you my thoughts, my opinions. I'm going to give you my reasons as to why I believe Mark Williams Thomas said what he said on that podcast.
Where you've not given up, and obviously I'm not going to dwell on all going back to Jay Slater and stuff like that, but because it was so recent. But look, with what's been said and you know how he lost his life, and you know 29 days later, I think it was, he was found. What failings was, you know, that, in your honest opinion, with the police and stuff?
Well, I think it's really, it's a very treacherous ground around there, so it's really hard. And I think it would be.
Do you think it's what happened to him there? What people were saying? That's actually what happened.
Yeah, I mean, he fell, he died. Yeah, end of. I mean,
Wow.
No one pushed him.
Wow, the way he says that as well. The way he says that, it's like it was so obvious that he just fell off and died. Who made you feel like it was foul play? Come on, it wasn't foul play. He just fell off and died. Mark Williams Thomas says that as if he didn't suggest he had evidence that could prove Jay left that Airbnb in fear for his life. I mean, what happened to the 2 knives that Mark Williams Thomas alleged Jay had? Or did that 2 knife theory come from the manipulated message that we broke down the other day? The one that had the word Nikki in it. That planted message that had information about Ayub before the media knew who Ayub were. Also had the picture of Jay in the back of the car claiming he was en route to sell this watch. I mean, who the hell put that message together for Debbie? That message was more or less giving alibis to Brad, throwing Ayub under the bus, calling him some sort of drug dealer. But where did Mark get that information from? And what did Mark do with that information? Are you telling me Mark literally got that information from that exact message as well? The person behind that message wasn't able to be verified. The same way the watch situation wasn't able to be verified. Why? Because it didn't happen. The watch situation never happened. The theft of a Rolex watch took place a whole year before Jay Slater was there, and 4 people got arrested for it. In my opinion, Ayub just used that story and made it look like Jay was involved in a situation where a Rolex was stolen and he had to flee the area to this Airbnb. But what did Mark Williams Thomas do with that information? Did Mark Williams Thomas thoroughly look at that information and debunk it, understand it, come to a realization that that information was manipulated, hence why he wasn't able to verify it? Again, the 2 knives that Jay allegedly left the Airbnb with the 2 orange handles, that information is displayed in that WhatsApp message. So tell me where Mark Williams Thomas got that information from. Or was he manipulating the way people were thinking based on information he took from that message? Now, if that's the case, then can we say that Mark Williams Thomas was manipulated to buy in to a narrative that was made up? Yes, because in my opinion, that message was made up. That message was put together, meant to be sent to Debbie to manipulate the way Debbie was thinking and feeling towards the friends. That's why the message gave an alibi to Brad. Debbie doesn't know who Ayub is, so they were willing to throw Ayub under the bus in that message to Debbie. Why? Because it's his narrative. He's the one that's created it. I wouldn't be surprised if it wasn't him or someone within his circle that sent that message, that put that message together, throwing himself under the bus. At that point, you've got to think Mark Williams Thomas was already in Tenerife, already investigating, to a degree could have already had Ayub's picture. So why don't we just throw Ayub under the bus, give an alibi to Jay's friend Brad, knowing that Ayub controls the narrative and knowing that Ayub's going to eventually come forward, throw that whole message under the bus. But guess what? That message can't be verified. But Mark Williams Thomas is going to take it as gospel and basically say, well, yep, Jay had 2 knives. Brad wasn't there. These 2 guys who they met on a flight to Tenerife confirmed that they were with Brad. They verified Brad's FaceTime call. But did Mark Williams Thomas actually speak to those 2 people? See, Mark Williams Thomas keeps referring to speaking to Jay's friends when he landed. Why does he keep referring to Jay's friends? Why doesn't he mention the friends by name? Why doesn't he mention, I spoke to Lucy, I spoke to Brad, I spoke to Brandon? He keeps mentioning, I spoke to Jay's friends. By the time Mark Williams Thomas would have landed in Tenerife, guess who he would have been speaking to? People like Sol, Aaliyah, Jay's ex-girlfriend, maybe Brad, but for some reason, I don't think he spoke to Lucy. He fails to mention who he spoke to. He just refers to them as Jay's friends. Although Brad and Lucy and Brandon, they're all accessories. They were all involved in whatever happened to Jay, whether it was via phone, whether it was via message. They were all involved. But for some reason, Lucy, Brandon, and Brad's name just don't get mentioned by Mark Williams Thomas. It's just Jay's friends. And at this point, Jay's friends could be any of Jay's friends. They could be Jay's friends that wasn't even there. There's so much that Mark Williams Thomas failed to do with the information that he was given. Because there was information that he was given that we have now, that I've debunked, looked at thoroughly, but a forensic image analysis looked carefully at this image, run it through a program, and it gave us back results that Mark Williams Thomas couldn't find even if they were standing right in front of him. There's been other information debunked, crucial evidence stumbled upon. The whole reason why Mark Williams Thomas said what he said whilst in Tenerife and now has changed his whole narrative is because he knows he was played. And to save credibility, to save face, he would rather just go with the official narrative and act like he was on board with the official narrative from the beginning. It's only because he knows he's been played. And if he doesn't know he's been played, if Mark Williams Thomas wants to truly understand how he has been played from start to finish, all you got to do is send me an email. See, I can show you one quick example of how Mark Williams Thomas got played. Mark Williams Thomas told us that Ayub told him that he was Johnny Vegas. We've got you on record confirming to us, Mark, that Ayub told you he was Johnny Vegas. Well, guess what? We've got Ayub on record confirming to us that he doesn't even know who Johnny Vegas is. So how can Mark Williams Thomas tell us and tell the world that Ayub Qasim goes by the name of Johnny Vegas and Ayub told him that, but then Ayub, months later, confirms on a live stream that he doesn't know who Johnny Vegas is. He even reiterates himself and says, who's Johnny Vegas? Never heard of him, but Mark never got played. Okay.
There wasn't anybody else up there. His body wasn't, he wasn't killed somewhere else and his body dumped there.
Look, Mark Williams Thomas is coming across unsure. He's going with the narrative because that's what's been given to him. He doesn't know any different. He never investigated anything. Because if he would have investigated anything, he would have stumbled across the evidence that me, Duncan Smith, and multiple other people have stumbled across. But Mark Williams Thomas didn't really care about investigating the Jay Slater case. Because Mark, if you do, then send me an email.
What other stories there are, but the
There's
reality,
many out there, Mark, isn't there? But
I mean,
people
you know,
just...
no aliens come along and picked him up and put him down
No
there.
one, no one believed any aliens come along and put him there. Stop trying to play stupid. Stop trying to insult our intelligence.
He fell. He fell. The proximity to where his body was found, it ties in totally with the last pings on his phone and corresponds completely with the way that his body and the injuries on his body.
I mean, that's a contradiction within itself. But the proximity of the body was found where the phone last pinged. But then just a minute ago, he says, well, nobody put him there. So if that's the case, what happened in the first 2 weeks of searching for Jay Slater? Why did the Guardia Civil use all of their resources in the area of where his phone last pinged and there wasn't a sniff of him? In mind, we're talking about a dehydrated Jay that had been cut by a cactus, according to Lucy. The investigation after 2 weeks was then shut down because they didn't believe Jay was in that area. So what was you thinking at that point then, Mark? Oh, it's just an accident. Jay's there. He has to be there. About that point, he was trying to make sense of fabricated information that was handed to you as if it was factual information, Mark. See, the thing is, I've given Mark credit. I've given Mark credit for actually having the information that has led us to stumbling across the evidence that we have stumbled across, as well as a lot of other information that has brought us to this point. But what's truly frustrating and what's truly upset a number of people is the fact that a private investigator like Mark Williams Thomas has failed to do that. He has failed to use that information that was given to him and investigate that information, thoroughly break it down, make sense of it, and come to a conclusion as to what truly happened to a guy that went off with these two strangers, allegedly don't know these guys. Lucy wasn't there, even though we've got a court document claiming that Lucy told the police she stayed at the Airbnb with Jay. And when she woke up, Jay just magically was gone. She was later told by people at the Airbnb that he went to the shop to buy some cigarettes. Wow. Did you ever question, Mark, why the story and the narrative about being at the Airbnb kept changing? Did you ever question that? Did you ever look into that? Did you ever look into Ophelia and her dodgy movements? Why she was so cold towards the family? fact, did you ever ask Ophelia about her engagement with Ayub at the Airbnb? Because I don't think I've ever heard Mark Williams Thomas tell us about Ayub and Ophelia's interactions. Because I'm surely if he investigated what happened to Jane, he was at the Airbnb, spoke to Ophelia, spoke to Roman, spoke to everyone that was associated with that Airbnb other than Ayub and Rocky at the time, then I'm sure Ophelia would have told him about her interactions with Ayub at the Airbnb that morning and seeing Jay coming out of the Airbnb front door. Not just standing at the bus stop. No, literally coming out of the door. That's the problem. Mark has failed to investigate. Speaking to friends, speaking to the family, speaking to a few witnesses, and that's a few, because he's about to say all of the witnesses. No, you spoke to a few witnesses, mate. You're going to get there, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure you hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel if you are newly watching. If you would have really done your due diligence and really investigated what was going on over there with the Airbnb, leading up to the Airbnb, leaving the Airbnb, if you would have thoroughly investigated that, Mark, you would have come to the same conclusions that we all come to, which is what you slightly did do. Hence why I'm frustrated as to why you have more or less done a 180 and changed your narrative.
That were found. Everything ties up. You know, for anybody to come along and say, but you know, there's foul play, there's this and there's this, is because they haven't listened or they haven't taken into consideration what the scene is telling you. And actually, you know, I've been there.
Telling you, so people can't make a scene look a certain way. People can't make things look a certain way. What has Ayub Qasim been doing with me online? He fabricated a police statement, for God's sake, trying to make it look like I've been making police statements. He's fabricating pictures as well at this moment in time, fabricating pictures, putting heads on videos and tagging me and tagging other content creators. But guess what, Mark? That's exactly what Ayub's been doing to you. And that's what he was doing to you from the very, very beginning, playing you, making it look a certain way. You took that information as gospel because they wanted the information to point you in one direction. They could easily eliminate the whole drug thing. Because if it's Ayub's story and Ayub controls the narrative, then Ayub can tell you anything he likes and no one is going to go against it. No one's going to stand up and say, no, Ayub's lying. If anything, the people that you have spoken to involved in this case have more or less accommodated Ayub's story. There's been lies and contradictions and back and forths about who did what and who went where and blah, 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 all for the sake of accommodating Ayub's story, which means Ayub's the controller here. Ayub's been controlling this from day one, hence why I've told you this is Ayub Qasim's story. Jay SLATER is just the face of it, sadly. But like I said earlier, Mark Williams Thomas wouldn't have known that even if it was staring him directly in the face.
I didn't go to the location where his body was found, but I've seen pictures of it and I've had it.
So you didn't actually go to the place where his body was found, you've just seen pictures of it. I mean, that doesn't make any sense to me. This is a private investigator that at some point felt that foul play could be involved. A third party could be involved. He's not going to rule it out, he said. I'm never going to rule it out. He's got information that he's dishing out saying, listen, Jay feared for his life. Jay had 2 knives. 2 weeks, the Guardia Civil was shutting down the search. They're basically saying they don't believe Jay's body's there. And then somehow that was covered up by saying, no, they just didn't want any distractions and they were searching in secrecy. Hold on. Wasn't it only 2 weeks ago that the Guardia Civil was asking for volunteers to come and help with the search? So make that make sense.
You know, I've talked through real detail with Debbie. You know, when I went out there and we started to, you know, people,
I spoke in real detail with Debbie about the location of where Jay's body was found. How does that help you solve the case? How does that help you with your investigation? Because a body's been found and there's injuries that tie up with a fall from a height, it doesn't necessarily mean that the case has been solved. It doesn't necessarily mean that your investigation into what happened is over. Because either you wasn't investigating or you were shut down and you were prevented from investigating the way you wanted to, or, which I think, and I'm going to say the latter, I think is probably more true than all of the things that I've just mentioned there, Mark was just in it for the money. There's a strong possibility based on your experience with production companies and with the media, I can get some sort of money out of this. Let me go and find out what the family want. Let me show them how I can help. If the family are open to allowing me to help, then I'm going to go to the Daily Mail or the Daily Mirror, which is exactly what Mark Williams Thomas tells us he did, and they're going to pay me for the work that I do over here because I'm going to get them the exclusives. I'm going to tell them about the 2 kitchen knives. See how this is being played now. You see how Mark is playing the game. You see how Mark is playing the game. Mark, you best email me, my brother. I need an email. I seriously need an email. If you are serious about understanding what happens to Jay Slater, then I need to receive an email. If you was only in this for money, then I don't expect to receive an email.
I said within the 3 days, I will be able to tell you whether this is third-party involvement or whether it's.
Listen to this contradiction.
And within
this lie.
3 days, I did. You know, people have said to me.
Within 3 days, he did. So he basically said within 3 days, he was going to be able to tell us whether this was an accident or whether this was foul play. Well, firstly, Mark, the body wasn't found for 29 days. So how can within 3 days you tell us what it is and what it isn't? What are you talking about? What are you talking about? This, again, is all to save face and credibility. If I was you, Mark, I would just retire from being a private investigator. Just retire. Just leave it.
Yeah, but you haven't. No, I did. Within 3 days, I said that I believe that there is no third-party involvement.
You believe there's no third-party involvement. What made you believe after 3 days there was no third-party involvement? What made you believe that, Mark? Tell us. Explain. Because after 3 days, you wouldn't have known who Ayub is. You wouldn't even have been able to speak to Ayub Qasim at that point. What about Rocky, the other person that stayed with Ayub? How was you not able to speak to the other person that was at the Airbnb with Jay and Ayub? Even then, you wasn't able to speak to that person, but within the first 3 days, you wasn't even able to speak to Ayub. So how are you telling this guy on this podcast and the world, more or less, that you ruled out third-party involvement within 3 days? I'll take you seriously after this one, Mark. Can't take you seriously. You best send me an email.
I'm still open to the option that that's possible. And of course you would always be. We're going to investigate a case. You're never going to close that door because something might suddenly come in. But I can tell you all the evidence.
I'm going to try and backtrack.
Telling me at the moment is that there is no third party involvement.
All of the evidence is telling you at the moment there was no third party. Okay, cool. And that could potentially be true because remember what I've told you. All of the evidence has been manipulated to look a certain way. Manipulated to point an investigator. Initially, it was to point the police in a certain direction. Remember, things like the Hennessy bottle, everyone was drinking Henny that night, sounds quite normal. Yeah, everyone was drinking Henny that night. Now, how can you prove everyone was drinking Henny that night? Oh, here's a video of Jay drinking out of a Henny bottle. And it's just Jay drinking by himself. So now Mark's like, oh, yeah, well, yeah, that part of the story makes sense. It's a fact, but it's manipulated. It's fake. When I say fake, I don't mean it didn't happen. It did happen, but it was manipulated to make you think a certain way. When really and truly, if they were all drinking Henny that night and it was all enjoying themselves, then it would have been Jay and a few of them on the camera drinking Henny that night. But no, it was just Jay with his glasses on, with his own phone in his hand, being recorded by someone else, doesn't even realize he's being recorded. And that's then given to Mark later on to say, oh yeah, we're all drinking Henny that night. And here's Jay drinking out of a Henny bottle. Again, manipulated information, manipulated evidence to make it look a certain way. And Mark Williams Thomas fell for it.
A lot of people, like the internet detectives, that's what people call them. Watch. He was up to no good. He was doing this.
But I spoke to every witness out there.
But, you know,
no, you never. Stop lying. And I like the way this presenter is really trying to direct this conversation and try and get Mark to talk about the watch, the whole watch theory, because it was Mark that broke the watch theory to us. If you see Mark Williams Thomas's response, you can see he doesn't actually want to talk about the Rolex situation. He doesn't want to talk about it. I spoke to all of the witnesses, he jumps in and says, with another lie, because you never spoke to all of the witnesses, did you? You never spoke to Rocky, did you? And what witnesses did you speak to? Witnesses were able to come forward and tell you, yeah, I saw that guy. But the only witness we know of is who? Ophelia. The only witness. The only independent witness, which is another lie because she's not an independent witness, is she, Mark? No, she's not. She is associated with the Airbnb. She is the owner or part owner of the Airbnb, isn't she, Mark? Which means she can't really stand up in court and be claimed as an independent witness, can she? No, she wouldn't stand the test of time, and based on her statement, she'll get folded in half like I do with my cheese on toast in the morning. So what witnesses did Mark actually talk to? Or is he just saying, I spoke to all of the witnesses, not realizing, oh, I never spoke to Rocky, I'm lying. Of course you're lying, Mark. Like I said, Mark, send me an email. Send me an email.
Or like they were saying, like the Rolex watch and all this, and you know, and he was up to no good. He was doing this. He was, you know, grafting and stuff like
He's
that.
a young
Was
lad.
grafting. You know what? He's really trying to make Mark talk. Like, tell me, Mark, because I know there was something else dodgy going on. You can't lie to me, Mark. You can't sit on my couch and lie to me, Mark. Come on, Mark. That's what this guy's getting at. Big up this guy. Make sure you guys subscribe to this podcast. I'll pin the link in the description below.
He was a young lad who went on holiday and did what many young lads
Of course,
do
yeah.
when they go. I mean, listen, you got young kids, don't send them to Tenerife.
Again, big up this presenter because he knows there's something dodgy that's going on and he wants to know if Mark really knows. But Mark's just sitting there brushing this all under the carpet like nothing ever happened. And in that guy's head, I know he's sitting there thinking, damn, man, you a fool. Look at his body language as an example. Arms crossed. Mark Williams Thomas is sitting there bullshit lying to us. Arms crossed. He knows something dodgy happened. But again, because he didn't investigate and he was there just peddling information to the Daily Mirror to get paid, he got played by the people that were involved in this case. I've always said it. Other people have said it. Or either Mark Williams Thomas knows that he went there to milk it for his own pocket. That's the only other explanation.
Yeah, I like many places, you know what I mean? I love going to Tenerife, if I'm honest.
I tell you what, that strip there.
No, that strip's a bit naughty, like, but, you know...
I mean, I got out of a taxi and there was a police officer stood kind of where your wall was, and these three people came up and offered me drugs literally as I got out of this taxi.
Wow. So he's basically saying, oh, nothing happened in Tenerife. Simple accident with Jay Slater, but the moment I got off a plane, more or less, police are standing right there and I've got guys offering me drugs straight away. What I take from that is this is a corrupt place. We're dealing with corrupt cops because no one in their right frame of mind would tell you that a policeman was standing right there and then three guys just come up to me and offer me drugs. But you're telling me that you can sit on the block with a police officer standing right in front of you and approach random dons that look like police officers and ask them if they want drugs. Mark Williams Thomas, man, you have just literally shot yourself in the foot with this one, bruv.
I think of it, you stay away from the strip, you know what I mean? It's like, it's one of those where it used to be. But Tenerife, I love the place, but...
Yeah, I mean, I've just dissed the whole of Tenerife.
No, you haven't. No, you haven't.
You just dissed the whole of Tenerife because you were thinking for your pocket. That's what you did. I mean, it's starting to make a lot of sense that Mark Williams Thomas realized he was restricted because of the Spanish authorities and them not allowing him the jurisdiction, and then realizing he could make a buck from milking it by getting paid from the media outlets. And now he's going to be releasing a documentary, which I don't understand why. Unless you're going to be revealing who the friends are and who the witnesses are you spoke to. Because according to Mark Williams Thomas, he gets all of those things on camera. He records a lot of stuff. Okay, cool. So if you're going to do a documentary and you're going to reveal the interviews that you had with Jay's friends, and I don't want no faces being hidden. Yeah, I want to see their faces. I want to hear exactly what they're saying. In fact, you know what it would be interesting to hear? It would be interesting to hear the conversation that you had with Ayub.
Veronica's it is, I think it is.
It's Veronica Strip. Don't go to, if you've got young kids, do not let them go to Veronica Strip. And you know, it's a crime haven.
It's a crime haven. Three lads approached me in front of a police officer, offered me drugs. Jay went to an Airbnb with convicted drug dealers, people that he doesn't know, total strangers, disappeared, wasn't found for 29 days. But guess what? Mark Williams Thomas tells you it's an accident. It's just an accident, man. He fell when he died. What else you want to hear? That is his energy. That's the energy that he gave us in this podcast. He fell when he died. What are you talking about? After listening to that podcast, ladies and gentlemen, I have to say I'm truly upset with Mark Williams Thomas and those content creators months ago that basically said Mark Williams Thomas is a fraud. I mean, they were right. They were right. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, we are getting there, so make sure you don't go anywhere. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if we are newly watching. We've got plenty of content dropping on this channel. Do become a member of the channel by clicking on the join button. We're going to have some exclusive members only videos dropping, as well as some other videos for the members. So make sure you click on that join button, become a member now, and I look forward to seeing you guys on the next one.